The auditorium fell silent when the human walked in carrying a small container. Every species in the Galactic Academy's xenobiology class had brought their world's apex predator secured in reinforced containment units that hummed with energy shields. The Kralix delegate had transported a 12-foot acid spitter from the swamps of Kraxus Prime. The Voth representative stood beside a crystalline cage holding a phase hunter that could slip between dimensions. Even the peaceful rendered had managed to bring a neural parasite sealed in triple-locked stasis. Commander Jake Harrison set his carrier on the presentation platform. Through the mesh door, students could see something small and furry curled into a ball. Several aliens leaned forward, confusion rippling through their sensory appendages. The Voth instructor, Professor Kelthus, adjusted his translation collar and clicked his mandibles in what humans had learned to recognize as skepticism. Cadet Harrison, the assignment was clear. Bring your planet's apex predator. This appears to be a domesticated companion animal. Jake smiled and opened the carrier door. A orange tabby cat named Milo stretched, yawned to reveal needle-sharp teeth, and stepped onto the platform with the casual confidence of an animal that had never met a predator it feared. The cat was barely 8 pounds. Compared to the nightmare creatures surrounding them, it looked like prey. With respect, sir, this is exactly what you asked for. On Earth, this species is one of our most successful predators. The classroom erupted in confused chittering and whistling. The Kralix delegate's skin flushed an insulted purple. Kelthus raised a manipulator for silence. Cadet, your species has creatures you call bears, sharks, and crocodiles. We've reviewed Earth's biodiversity files. Are you seriously suggesting this tiny mammal is your apex predator? Not the apex predator, sir. Just one of our most efficient killers. Jake activated his datapad, and a holographic display materialized above Milo, who had begun grooming himself, completely unconcerned with the roomful of aliens studying him. The statistics made several students recoil. 30 species driven to extinction. Billions of kills annually. A hunting success rate that made professional assassin species look incompetent. The ability to thrive in every environment from Arctic stations to desert colonies? Impossible, Kelthus stated flatly. This creature is too small. Its claws are retractable, suggesting it doesn't rely on them. Where is its venom, its armor plating, its size? It doesn't need them, Jake replied. On Earth, we measure predators differently. This cat kills for enjoyment. It hunts even when fed. It's been recorded playing with prey for hours before delivering the killing blow, and humanity brought them everywhere we went. They're on every human colony, every station, every ship. Milo chose that moment to notice a small flying drone monitoring the class. His pupils dilated to black saucers. His body went perfectly still except for the tip of his tail, which twitched once. Then he exploded into motion, leaping 6 feet straight up, snatching the drone from the air, and landing with it pinned beneath his paws. The drone's emergency beacon squealed before Milo's teeth found the power core. The room went dead silent. The cat released the destroyed drone and sat down, licking his paw as if nothing had happened. His eyes scanned the room with unblinking predatory focus, and for the first time, the other students saw what Jake had been trying to explain. That wasn't a pet. That was a killer wearing a cute disguise, and the only reason everything in the room wasn't prey was because the cat hadn't decided they were interesting enough to hunt yet. Professor Kelthus's skin had gone pale green. Perhaps we should discuss Earth's definition of domestication. Jake's smile widened. That's part 2 of my presentation, sir. You're going to love what we did with wolves. The Kralix delegate made a sound like choking. In the corner, Milo had found a reflection and was preparing to fight it. Completely unaware, he'd just redefined the class's understanding of what made a predator truly dangerous. Not size, not venom, not armor, just the pure, efficient joy of the hunt, wrapped in a package small enough to be underestimated until it was far too late. Professor Kelthus pulled up Earth's file on his personal display, his manipulator shaking slightly as he scrolled through the ecological damage reports. 13,000 years of partnership between humans and these creatures, spread across 300 colony worlds. Always hunting. always killing, always purring. He looked at the human, then at the cat, then back at the list of extinct species. Class dismissed, he said quietly. I need to file a report with the Galactic Ecology Board. Today, the Alliance had strict rules about introducing invasive predator species to member worlds. Commander Harrison's presentation had just made everyone realize those rules had been written before anyone met humanity's best friend. As students filed out, giving Milo a wide berth, the cat yawned again and curled up for a nap, one eye cracked open just enough to track every movement in the room. Somewhere on Earth, millions of his relatives were doing exactly the same thing, and the galaxy was only just beginning to understand what that meant. The next day, Jake returned to find the xenobiology lab transformed into a fortress. Energy barriers crisscrossed the room. Containment protocols designed for Class 5 biohazards were active. Professor Kelthus stood behind a reinforced podium, his carapace sealed inside an environmental suit despite breathing the same air as yesterday. Before we continue, the professor announced to the assembled class, I spent last night reviewing Earth's ecological database. Specifically, the sections your species labeled as unnecessary for our initial cultural exchange. His eye stalks fixed on Jake with unmistakable accusation. You didn't tell us about the Australian continent. Several alien students shifted nervously. The Kralix delegate had positioned himself near the emergency exit. Word had spread quickly through the Academy's social networks. Humanity's presentation had gone viral. And not in a good way. Jake kept his expression neutral. Sir, the assignment was to bring one predator. I brought Milo. Yes, the cat. Kelvis pulled up a holographic display that made half the class flinch. The same species that, according to your own scientific journals, has contributed to the extinction of at least 63 species across your colonies. The same animal that your military specifically bred smaller versions of to hunt parasites on spacecraft because the regular ones were too efficient and started attacking the life support system searching for prey. To be fair, Jake interjected, that only happened twice, and we fixed the shielding. It attacked your life support systems. Milo's great-great-grandmother, different branch of the family, much more aggressive temperament. The professor's skin cycled through 3 colors that didn't translate but clearly meant he was reconsidering his career choices. Cadet Harrison, I'm beginning to understand why the Galactic Council was hesitant about humanity's application for membership. We prefer to think of it as practical, sir. Kelthus gestured sharply, and the hologram shifted to show a montage of Earth's predators. Great white sharks, saltwater crocodiles, polar bears, Komodo dragons, each one larger and more terrifying than Milo by orders of magnitude. These are apex predators, yet you chose the cat. Explain. Jake had prepared for this. He'd actually volunteered for the presentation specifically because he knew it would cause exactly this reaction. The other human cadets had drawn straws, and he'd won. Or lost, depending on perspective. Professor, you're thinking about predation wrong. Those animals you showed? They're specialists. The shark needs water. The bear needs specific climate zones. The crocodile is ambush dependent. They're powerful but limited. He pulled up his own display showing a map of Earth. Cats are everywhere. Arctic research stations, tropical islands, desert outposts, urban centers. They've adapted to every environment humanity colonized, and they did it in less than 10,000 years. Adaptation isn't, they hunt in zero gravity, sir. That stopped Kelvis mid-sentence. What? The International Space Station, our first permanent orbital facility. We brought cats. Within a generation, they'd learn to hunt in 3 dimensions without gravity. They became more efficient killers in microgravity than on the ground because prey couldn't hide anywhere. Jake's smile was proud. We have footage of a cat named Luna taking down an escaped laboratory rat in the station's Japanese module, 3-dimensional pursuit through air ducts. The rat never had a chance. The rendered delegate, a peaceful crystalline being that communicated through light pulses, flickered in distress. But why would you bring predators into space? This seems unnecessarily dangerous. Pest control, Jake said simply, but also companionship. Humans like cats. They're soft, they purr, they're funny, we enjoy having them around. You enjoy being around efficient killers, Kelthus said slowly as if testing the words for logic. Well, yes. We also enjoyed being around dogs, and those evolved from pack hunters that could chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. Humanity has a thing about befriending predators and then acting surprised when other species find it weird. The Voth instructor pulled up another file, this one marked with biohazard warnings. According to this report, cats carry a parasite called toxoplasma. It infects prey species and alters their brain chemistry to reduce fear response, making them easier to catch. The parasite can infect humans. You're aware of this, yes? Sure. About a third of Earth's human population has it. The classroom erupted. Several students activated personal shields. The Kralix delegate actually did leave through the emergency exit, muttering something about insane death worlders in his native language. Kelthus held up a manipulator for calm, though his own skin had flushed the pale green of Voth anxiety. You're telling me that a third of your species is infected with a brain-altering parasite from your predator companions? And you're all just fine with this? We co-evolved with it. Some studies suggest it might even be beneficial, makes us more entrepreneurial, less risk-averse. Jake shrugged, though that could explain why we're the first species to think strapping rockets to chemical explosives and riding them into space was a good idea. This is not reassuring, Cadet. Sir, with respect, you asked us to explain our apex predators. I'm trying to show you that on Earth, the relationship between predator and prey is complicated. Humans aren't at the top of the food chain because we're the biggest or strongest. We're there because we're adaptable, we cooperate, and we figured out how to make friends with things that should eat us. Kelthus pulled up another image. This one showed wolves. The canine presentation is tomorrow. I've read ahead in your file. Please tell me you're not going to explain how you domesticated pursuit predators and taught them to guard your offspring. Actually, that's exactly what I'm going to explain. But today is about cats. Jake activated a live feed from his family home in Colorado. His mother was visible in the kitchen, and curled on the counter directly beside her cutting board was another orange cat watching her prepare food with intense focus. This is Sunny. She's Milo's sister. Watch what happens when my mom walks away. The moment his mother turned her back, Sunny's paw shot out, snagging a piece of chicken from the cutting board. She pulled it close, looked directly at the camera as if she knew she was being watched, and ate it while maintaining eye contact. The entire sequence took 4 seconds and demonstrated problem-solving, opportunity assessment, and theft with zero hesitation. Your mother allows this? The rendered delegate pulsed. She expects it. Sunny does this every day. Mom cuts extra chicken because she knows some of it will be stolen. It's part of their relationship. Professor Kelthus sat down heavily, which was significant because Voth rarely sat during lectures. Let me see if I understand. Humans domesticated obligate carnivores that hunt for pleasure, allowed them to infect you with brain parasites, spread them across your entire planet and every colony world, and you consider this normal. We consider it Tuesday, sir. The hologram shifted again, this time showing statistics that made the professor's manipulators twitch. Global cat population on Earth. Estimated 600 million. Colony worlds, another 200 million. Ships and stations, 50 million. Almost a billion small, efficient predators living alongside humanity, killing an estimated 20 billion animals annually for food and recreation combined. And you brought this to the Academy, Kelthus said quietly, to a space station with a carefully balanced ecological system, where we have small maintenance drones that fly, that move like prey. Jake's expression didn't change, but he pulled out a small device. I have Milo on a special diet. His prey drive is managed. And I brought this. He held up what looked like a small rod with feathers on the end. It's called a cat toy. If he starts hunting the drones, I just redirect his attention to this. He'll chase it for hours. Redirect his attention. Kelvis repeated, from hunting critical station infrastructure to a stick with feathers. It works remarkably well, sir. The professor stared at the human cadet for a long moment. Behind him, the rest of the class was busy researching Earth's predator species with increasing alarm. The Kralix delegate had sent a message from his quarters asking if the rest of the semester could be conducted remotely. Cadet Harrison, I'm going to ask you a question and I need you to answer honestly. Yes, sir. On Earth, what do humans consider a dangerous predator? If cats are companions and wolves are guards, what do your people actually fear? Jake thought about that carefully. He could mention great whites, or saltwater crocodiles, or polar bears. He could talk about the Australian wildlife that seemed designed specifically to kill humans in creative ways. But he decided on honesty. Honestly, sir, other humans were persistently pursued predators with tool use, abstract reasoning, and pack tactics. We can track prey across continents. We can plan ambushes that take weeks to set up. We hold grudges across generations. Most of Earth's megafauna went extinct shortly after we showed up, and it probably wasn't coincidence. He paused. Everything else on our planet learned to either avoid us, submit to us, or die. The cats were smart. They chose option 2, but made us think it was our idea. The silence that followed was profound. Somewhere in the station, Milo was presumably napping, dreaming of conquest and chin scratches. On Earth, his billions of relatives were doing the same, spread across a world they'd claimed not through force but through strategic cuteness and efficient murder. Professor Keltis pulled up the class schedule and began making modifications, change of plans. Tomorrow, we're covering defensive protocols and invasive species management. The canine presentation is postponed indefinitely. But, sir, I already brought my dog. He's in quarantine on Deck 7. What kind of dog, cadet? Belgian Malinois, police and military breed. Very friendly. The professor's skin went through a color combination that the translator couldn't parse but was definitely profanity. Get it off my station. Sir, he's a certified therapy dog, very gentle with children. Harrison, I've spent the last hour learning about your species' relationship with predators. I know what gentle means in human context, and it's not what the rest of the galaxy thinks it means. Jake opened his mouth to argue, but thought better of it. The professor had a point. Rex was gentle, but he was also 90 pounds of muscle, teeth, and selective breeding for bite force and pursuit endurance. Explaining that humans used these animals to comfort trauma survivors was not going to help his case. Understood, sir. I'll arrange for Rex to be returned to Earth. Thank you. Kelthis pulled up another file, this one marked urgent from the Galactic Council. I'm also filing a formal request for humanity to provide complete documentation on all domesticated species before any more of you bring companions to Academy stations. The Council is concerned about biosecurity. That's fair, Jake admitted, though I should warn you, the list is extensive. We've domesticated or semi-domesticated over 40 mammal species, dozens of bird species, various reptiles, insects for silk production and pollination, and we're currently working on octopi, though they keep escaping. You're domesticating cephalopods? They're really smart, and we think they'd be great for underwater construction work. Also, they're funny. Humans like things that are funny. Professor Keltis closed his files and looked at Jake with something that might have been respect or might have been existential dread. Cadet, I'm beginning to understand why the galaxy is having such difficulty integrating humanity. You're not just a spacefaring species. You're a spacefaring species that brings its entire planet's ecosystem with you wherever you go, including the predators, and you think this is helpful. Is it not helpful, sir? The station has reported a 40% reduction in maintenance drone losses this week. Milo's earning his keep. The drones are going missing because your cat is hunting them, but the ones that survive are learning better evasion patterns. You're welcome? The professor made a sound that the translator rendered as deeply tired resignation. Class dismissed. I need to speak with station security about implementing new containment protocols. Harrison, You and your predator are confined to the xenobiology wing until further notice. What about meals? Milo needs to eat. I'll have food delivered, preferably something that doesn't trigger hunting behavior. Sir, he's a cat. Everything triggers hunting behavior. Yesterday he stalked a dust particle for 20 minutes. Kelthus looked at the ceiling as if asking the universe for patience. Then we'll deliver food in sealed containers. Just keep him away from anything that moves, flies, crawls, or could be mistaken for prey. That's going to be tricky on a space station, sir. I'm aware, Cadet. I'm painfully, terribly aware. As Jake left the classroom, he passed several students who pressed themselves against the walls to maintain maximum distance. Word had definitely spread. The human had brought a predator, and while it was small and cute, everyone now understood that on Earth those two qualities were not mutually exclusive with lethally dangerous. Back in his quarters, Milo was awake and staring at the ventilation grate with intense focus. Something was skittering inside the ducts. Probably one of the cleaning drones that maintained air quality. The cat's tail twitched once, twice, and then he launched himself at the grate, claws extended, ready to defend humanity's honor against the terrible threat of automated cleaning equipment. Jake sighed and grabbed the feather toy. It was going to be a long semester. But as he watched Milo redirect his hunting instincts toward the dancing feathers, he couldn't help but smile. This was exactly what he'd hoped for. The galaxy needed to understand humanity, and nothing explained humans better than their relationship with cats. They'd chosen to live alongside efficient killers, to feed them, shelter them, and let them sleep on their beds despite knowing exactly what those animals were capable of. They'd looked at small, deadly predators and decided to call them friends. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked. The cats had claimed humanity as surely as humanity had claimed them, and together they'd spread across the stars. The galaxy was just going to have to adjust. After all, if they thought cats were concerning, wait until they learned about the toxoplasma's effects in detail, or about the Australian wildlife, or about humanity's casual relationship with venomous snakes and spiders. Earth was a death world that had spent millions of years trying to kill humanity, and humanity's response had been to domesticate everything that would hold still long enough and call it progress. Professor Kelthus was right about one thing. Integrating humanity into galactic civilization was going to be complicated. But as Milo pounced on the feather toy with devastating accuracy, Jake thought maybe that was okay. The galaxy had been peaceful for too long. A little chaos from Earth might do everyone good, or at least make for entertaining xenobiology presentations. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Academy's Biosecurity Board convened at 060 station time, which meant Jake was summoned from sleep by an urgent message on his datapad. Milo, disturbed by the noise, expressed his displeasure by knocking Jake's water glass off the nightstand and then staring at him with complete innocence. "This is your fault," Jake told the cat, who yawned and stretched, claws extending to impressive length before retracting again. "You had to show off." By the time Jake arrived at the conference room, every seat was filled with representatives from a dozen species. Professor Kelthus stood at the head of the table, and beside him was someone Jake hadn't expected. Commander Lisa Chen, the human liaison to the Galactic Council and the highest-ranking human at the Academy. She looked tired. More importantly, she looked like someone who'd been woken up to deal with a problem she'd specifically warned people about. "Cadet Harrison," she said, her voice carrying that particular tone officers used when they were professionally disappointed. "Sit down. We need to talk about your cat." Jake sat. Around the table, alien faces and sensory organs focused on him with varying degrees of concern, curiosity, and what might have been accusation. The Voth biosecurity chief, an individual named Praxis, pulled up a holographic display showing the station's sensor network. "In the 72 hours since the feline arrived," Praxis began, "we've logged 37 separate incidents of predatory behavior. The cat has attempted to hunt maintenance drones, pursued a rendered delegate's crystalline pet down 3 corridors, cornered 2 separate students, and somehow got into the hydroponics bay where it killed and consumed 3 fish from the ornamental pond. The pond was in a sealed environment," Praxis continued, his tone suggesting this was the worst part. "We still don't know how it gained access. The environmental suit technicians have checked every seal. There are no breaches. The cat simply appeared inside, committed piscicide, and left. Commander Chen pinched the bridge of her nose. Jake, please tell me you didn't teach your cat how to bypass security doors. I didn't teach him. Cats are just good at getting into places they're not supposed to be. It's kind of their thing. Their thing, Praxis repeated flatly. Breaking into sealed environments is their thing. Well, yes, on Earth, cats are famous for it. There's thousands of videos of cats opening doors, drawers, containers. They're really good with their paws. Opposable thumbs would actually make them more dangerous, but they've learned to compensate. The Kralix representative who'd returned to the meeting under protest and was maintaining maximum distance from Jake made a sound like grinding rocks. This creature has been aboard the station for 3 days. 3 days, and it has already disrupted station operations, traumatized students, committed theft, and demonstrated the ability to breach our security systems. How did your species survive having millions of these animals in your living spaces? We adapted, Jake said simply. You learned to cat-proof things. Secure containers, locked doors, except that anything left on a counter will eventually be pushed off. It's part of the relationship. The relationship, Commander Chen said, that you decided to demonstrate to the entire Galactic Academy without clearing it with the Human Liaison Office first. The assignment was to bring a predator, ma'am. I brought one. You brought a diplomatic incident with fur and an attitude problem. Milo, as if sensing he was being discussed, chose that moment to trigger the door sensor to Jake's quarters, which he'd learned opened automatically when motion was detected. The security feed showed him trotting down the corridor with clear purpose, heading toward the ventilation system. He'd discovered the ducts led everywhere, and the station's cleaning drones had become his favorite target. He's hunting again, Praxis observed with resignation. Should I alert the maintenance teams? They're already aware, another board member said, a cybernetic being from the Nexus Collective. 3 drones have been reported missing in the past hour. The cat is caching kills. He's storing them? Chen asked sharply. Jake nodded. It's instinctive behavior. Cats hide food for later. He probably has a collection somewhere in the ventilation system. You might want to check before they start to smell. The board members exchanged looks that transcended species barriers. They were all thinking the same thing. How had humanity become a spacefaring civilization while living alongside animals that hunted for recreation, broke into sealed rooms, and cached kills in their ventilation systems? Professor Kelfis cleared his throat, drawing attention back to the matter at hand. The Biosecurity Board has reviewed Earth's ecological database in detail. We have concerns beyond just the cat. A new hologram appeared showing Earth's domesticated animals in sequence. Dogs of dozens of breeds, from tiny companions to massive working animals. Horses, cattle, pigs, chickens, goats, sheep. Then more unusual choices. Ferrets, hedgehogs, sugar gliders, various species of parrots and corvids. The list went on. You've domesticated scavengers, persistence hunters, prey species, territorial herbivores, and opportunistic omnivores, Kelthus explained. But the pattern we're noticing is that humanity has a preference for animals that are either useful or entertaining, and you don't seem to distinguish between the two. Both are valuable, Jake said. Cats handle pest control and provide companionship. That's useful and entertaining. The cat is terrorizing the station. But the maintenance drone evasion protocols are improving, and 3 students have asked if they can pet him. That's social bonding across species barriers. Isn't that what the Academy is supposed to foster? Commander Chen actually smiled at that, though she tried to hide it. He has a point, Professor. Cross-species understanding is part of our mission. Understanding, yes. Terror, no. Praxis pulled up another file. We've also received reports that Cadet Harrison mentioned bringing a canine to the station, a working breed, specifically selected for traits that make it useful to human law enforcement and military applications. This was concerning enough that we preemptively researched the breed. The hologram shifted to show Belgian Malinois in action. military working dogs taking down targets in training exercises, police dogs pursuing suspects across rough terrain, detection dogs finding explosives and narcotics. Every video showed animals that were fast, powerful, intelligent, and completely focused on their tasks. These animals, Praxis said slowly, are pursuit predators that humans have selectively bred for increased drive, focus, and bite force. They can run at speeds of 35 miles per hour, they have bite pressure exceeding 230 pounds per square inch, and you brought one to a space station. Rex is a therapy dog, Jake protested. He's trained to comfort people with PTSD. By what mechanism does a pursuit predator provide therapy? Companionship, unconditional affection, physical contact. Dogs are really good at sensing human emotions and responding appropriately. Rex can tell when someone is having a panic attack and will lean against them to provide pressure therapy. It's very helpful. The Kralix representative made that grinding sound again. You're describing an animal that can sense fear and responds by physically restraining the person. And you consider this comforting? When you put it that way, it sounds bad, Jake admitted. But yes, humans find it comforting. The pressure is reassuring. It makes our nervous systems calm down. Commander Chen leaned forward, her expression serious. Jake, I'm going to be honest with you. The Council is already nervous about humanity's integration into galactic society. We're from a high-gravity world with extreme environmental variation. Our baseline physical capabilities are intimidating to most species. The fact that we bring predators with us as companions is making that worse.
But we've always had these relationships, Jake argued.
Humans and dogs have been partners for 30,000 years, cats for 13,000. We didn't just domesticate them, we co-evolved with them. They shaped our psychology, our culture, our development as a species. You can't understand humanity without understanding our relationship with animals. That, Professor Kelthus said quietly, is precisely what concerns us. The room fell silent. On the security feed, Milo had successfully cornered another cleaning drone and was batting it between his paws like a toy, completely ignoring its distress signals. The drone's emergency beacon was flashing, but the cat seemed to interpret this as the drone playing back. What are you saying? Jake asked. Praxis answered. We're saying that humanity's relationship with predatory species suggests a psychology that the rest of the galaxy finds deeply alien. You befriend things that hunt. You selectively breed them to hunt better. You bring them into your homes, your ships, your colonies, and you do this while somehow remaining a cooperative, generally peaceful species. Unless, the Nexus Collective representative added, humans require proximity to predation to feel secure, which suggests your species has a very different threat assessment baseline than the rest of galactic civilization. Jake thought about that. He thought about coming home after a bad day to find Milo curled up on his bed, purring. He thought about his family's dog, a German shepherd named Duke, who'd growled at strangers but let Jake's little sister dress him in tutus. He thought about humanity's history of taming wolves, hunting with hawks, diving with sharks, and generally refusing to acknowledge that maybe some animals should be left alone. Maybe, he said finally, humans just really like animals. All animals, even the dangerous ones. Especially the dangerous ones, because those are the most interesting. The board members exchanged glances again. This was clearly not the reassuring answer they'd hoped for. Commander Chen sighed. Jake, the board is going to make some recommendations to the council. They're not punitive, but they're necessary for station safety. First, Milo needs to be confined to your quarters unless you're actively supervising him. He'll hate that. Second, no more unsupervised access to the ventilation system. We're installing filters on the grates in your section. He'll figure out how to remove them. Then we'll install better filters. Third, and this is non-negotiable, no more predators brought to the station without explicit approval from the Biosecurity Board. That includes Rex. Jake nodded reluctantly. Understood, ma'am. But for the record, I still think this is a learning opportunity for the other species. They need to understand that not all predators are threats. Some are just living their lives and they happen to be really good at hunting. The cat is currently dismembering a 3,000 credit maintenance drone, Praxis pointed out. Okay, that's fair. I'll pay for replacements. You'll pay for the first one. After that, we're implementing a cat tax. Every drone Milo destroys comes out of your stipend. That's actually reasonable, Jake admitted. On Earth, pet deposits are standard when renting housing. The meeting adjourned with new protocols in place and several species much more wary of humanity than they'd been before. As Jake left the conference room, Commander Chen pulled him aside. "That was quite a presentation," she said, her expression hard to read. "I really did think it would be educational." Oh, it was. The entire station now knows that humans are insane enough to live with efficient killers and call it domestication. The recruitment office has received 3 applications from species wanting to study human psychology, and the xenobiology department's enrollment has doubled. People want to understand the species that looked at apex predators and decided they needed more of them. Jake couldn't tell if she was angry or impressed. Is that good or bad? Honestly, I don't know yet. But Harrison, do me a favor. Next time you want to educate the galaxy about humanity, maybe start with something less likely to cause interspecies incidents, like our music or our food. Or literally anything that doesn't involve our tendency to befriend things that can kill us. Understood, ma'am. She started to walk away, then paused. Although I have to admit, watching those Voth biosecurity officers try to explain how an 8-pound cat breached their sealed hydroponics bay was pretty funny. They're still running diagnostics. He's very determined when there are fish involved, clearly. Just keep him contained, Harrison. And for everyone's sake, let's not mention that humans have also domesticated honey badgers for educational purposes. We have? There's a wildlife rehabilitation center in South Africa. They have 3 that help teach visitors about conservation. The badgers are completely tame. Honey badgers, Jake repeated, his mind already racing through the implications. The most fearless predators on Earth, famous for attacking animals 50 times their size and refusing to back down from anything, including lions, and someone domesticated them. They still bite occasionally. The handlers wear protective gear. That's amazing. That's classified. The Council doesn't need to know about the honey badgers, or the ravens that humans have taught to talk, or the octopi that are learning tool use, or any of the other insane animal partnerships we've developed. One predator crisis at a time, please. She left before Jake could ask about the ravens, which was probably wise. Back in his quarters, Milo had returned from his hunting expedition and was grooming himself with the satisfaction of a predator who'd had a successful day. 3 maintenance drones were stashed behind Jake's desk, their emergency beacons disabled with precision bites to the circuitry. Jake retrieved the damaged drones and filed the incident report, calculating how much of his stipend would survive the semester if Milo's hunting continued at this pace. Then he pulled out the feather toy and spent an hour redirecting predatory energy toward appropriate targets. The cat leaped, pounced, and attacked the feathers with enthusiasm that would have terrified the biosecurity board if they'd been watching. But this was normal. This was Tuesday with a cat. And if the rest of the galaxy couldn't understand why humans found that comforting rather than concerning, well, they'd just have to learn. Humanity,